Alright, so quick update here. We've got front diff pulled, completely stripped down. That engine runs. The guys are cleaning up right now just so we got a nice clean spot to work with. And this is the bracket that we ordered for it off eBay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this came from Battleborn Brakes. So this isn't, so to speak, a bracket for a two-wheel drive, but we're going to make it work. It's a highboy conversion bracket to put Super Duty axles in a highboy. So we're going to use this bracket in the front. This bracket flips over, goes in the front under here. Some brackets here from Sky Off-Road that we ordered that are going to go under the door and be used in the back. We ordered their offset shackles. So we're going to get that rear axle swapped over to this thing, and that'll be first, so that then we can measure center of axle to center of axle and get everything centered back up where it's supposed to be.
Alright guys, got a little update for you. Got the rear end out, sitting over here. The rear end on this truck is almost ready to come out. Got the leaf springs unhooked on it. They're just kind of sitting in there. And we'll start the swap, getting that rear end over here and putting it in the blue truck. Alright guys, so we got the leaf springs off the axle here. We're going to test fit them, mock them up here in this frame, figure out what we need to do. I do know that our leaf spring perch here on the axle. We're gonna have to cut it off and slide it in, weld it up closer.
It does look quite a bit wider.
I always thought these trucks had the same width.
I bet these are 2.5, and the 04 is 3-inch.
Really?
Yeah, I mean the leaf spring is 3. I can see.
It had a 2.5-inch spring.
2 7/8.
Okay. So if you ask me, I say we take the hangers off that frame and we'll put the front ones on first, and we'll pick the back leaf spring up and we'll just mount the hanger further back so we don't even have to use that mount.
Yeah. I think it would ride better if it didn't have that factory bullshit on it. Like if it was, we just set it up how the 03 was.
You talking about if it didn't have this thing?
Yeah.
I agree.
What we determined is these are 3-inch leaf springs, and these are probably, I'm not sure, 2.5, 2 3/4. I ain't measured them yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these hangers off this frame, and we're going to take the hangers off the 03 frame, and we're going to put them on this frame.
I think it'd fit.
You think that's as far back as it needs to go? See, I was thinking maybe it needed to split the difference in the holes. Well, let's do this.
It needs to, the center, the bolt needs to be lined up with that bolt. Roughly, it needs to be right there.
So from there to wherever the center of that one is. I think it's 2 foot. We're pretty close there. Okay, that's 2 1/4.
This way?
No, towards the front of the truck, my bad. Where are you going to put it? Can you bring it towards the back of the truck like a hair? Like an 1/8 of an inch? That's it. So we can always just notch that right there. Alright guys, so as you can see, we got the factory mounts cut off this thing, and now we're mocking up to see where we need to mount the 6.0 mounts. Ain't as close as I thought it was going to be, but me and Casey are working on it now. It's pretty much got to touch the toolbox to get the mount where it needs to be.
I need to unbolt the bed and pick it up off a frame about 2 foot.
Yeah.
Pick it up and sit some 4x4s under it so it's out of our way, and then because you need to get in here and drill the hole. Like once you get the top mounted, I think we can determine where to drill the top holes. Once you get the top plate mounted, I would just as soon come in with a drill and drill the holes.
Yeah. It'd be nice just to take a bed off of
Depending on how far he wants to go with the project, yeah.
it. Oh, he hasn't determined that?
Well, no. We're in the mock-up stage right now, you know, and he's liable to come in once we get fully mocked up, the engine and trans side in, and I'll be like
the patina?
yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? He's going to have a deciding factor at that point. How nice do you want this thing to be? Like, are we going all the way, or are we... You could order you a nice interior for it. You could have somebody clear coat the outside, put you some wheels and tires on it, tint the windows. Like, we could make this thing fun to drive. And so I'm not fully convinced he's not going to come in at the mock-up stage and be like, let's just do that. I'm already deep enough in this project. But then again, you know, knowing him, he's liable to come in and be like, no, we're going to go all the way with this. At this point, we're going to remove the bed because to try and get this bracket put in, which you can't see because of the light, but to try and get this hanger right here put in, the toolbox in the bed is in the way. So rather than trying to remove the toolbox, we're just going to get the bed unbolted, picked up, put some 4x4s under it, and we're just going to make it work that way. We didn't adjust the camera so y'all didn't see what happened there, but we ended up getting the bed picked up and we've got it on 2 4x4s, one in the front and one in the back. We would remove it just completely, but we're kind of limited on space in here, and we've still got a lot of other customer stuff going on back there that we've got a safe space for. So trying to maximize what we have here. But now at this point, what we've done is, get a little light on the subject. Now we've got room to be able to get in here and work on this mount here without the bed being in our way. We can get drills and everything in there. So, okay, so we come in this morning, we got the shop cleaned up from getting the rear end and stuff out. So we've got a nice clean slate to work with first thing this morning. And yesterday we did successfully mock up this hanger over here. We're getting our measurements where we need them. This one is ready to start drilling. We've marked our holes, so we're going to start drilling this one. This one is where we want it to be. And then we'll probably go ahead and put the front one on the other side, and then we'll start putting the rears on. Okay, so we're going to get the bumper taken off real quick. We've determined that we're pretty confident that this hanger right here is going to end up where the bumper bracket is. Maybe not, but we're just going to go ahead and get it out of the way. Okay, so we've got both Super Duty leaf springs in. The Super Duty mounts are on the frame. They're just mocked up with a couple bolts right now, but that's enough for just mock-up purposes. We ran into some issues. We ended up having to take the hitch out because this mount ended up being a little bit further back than the original mount was. So ended up having to take the hitch out so we could make room for all that. This mount ended up being, the hole for it ended up being down here below the frame. What we'll end up doing is building a bracket, like an L bracket that comes in here like this, and will allow us to bolt the leaf spring to the bottom of the frame. Is how we'll end up doing that. And we did the same, we've got the same setup on both sides. Okay, so we have got the spring purchase cut off now this is the Super Duty rear axle, and we had to cut the spring purchase off because the frame is wider on the newer model 6.0 chassis than it is on the older F250 chassis. So we've got our leaf springs mounted, which I showed you in the last video, and now at this point we have took a measurement center pin to center pin and got our width, and now that's what we're setting this up here as. The way we come up with the measurement on where we wanted to put these was we measured backing plate to backing plate, and then we subtracted the distance of the leaf springs from that number and then divided that by 2, and that gave us the distance between the sides of each backing plate. Now the backing plate is a really nice place to measure from. You don't want to measure from the center section here because that's not uniform. So the backing plate is always in the same place on both sides, so the backing plate's a good place to measure from on either side. So at this point we've got this one, we ended up determining we needed 9 1/8 in. So we've got this one set 9 1/8. And what we've done is we are welding our perches on exactly 90 degrees. So what we want to do is we want to get the angle finder to read 90, or pretty close to 90. Perfect. Okay, so now we've got our angle finder on the face of the pinion and it's reading 90. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to, of course, took our measurement 9 1/8 over to the center, and now we're going to set our level to where our perch is reading level. We need to adjust it just a little here. Okay, and so what that has achieved is we have our perch exactly 90 degrees to our pinion. Now, you could go ahead and factor in some degrees in this if you wanted to, 3-degree pinion angle, but our blocks are tapered, and so we're gonna adjust our pinion angle with either shims or the blocks. The blocks are already tapered, so we'll see where that puts us. We can't factor pinion angle until we get the engine and transmission in so we can determine what the crankshaft angle is. So at this point it's really just mock-up stage. We're just gonna tack these in place. Pretty good tacks, but just enough for us to get it mounted and see where everything's at. But we are welding our perches 90 degrees to the pinion. so we got the rear end in, got the U-bolts tight, and got some wheels on it, and everything's looking pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and take the 4x4s out of the bed and go ahead and sit it down. Okay, we got the bed sat down, and everything looks pretty good. We're happy. So at this point, we're going to continue on to the front now. Okay, so we've got the Super Duty axle out of the 6.0 chassis over here, and now we've got it slid under here, and we're going to start getting all our measurements in, get this axle centered up, and start getting all our brackets in place. So we've got our cross member tacked in place, and now what we're doing is trying to get the front axle leaf springs bolted up into this cross member so that we can test fit.
They'll let you know on YouTube.
Yeah. We put it where we thought we were supposed to, but we've not got our number right somewhere. I wonder where this bump stop lined up on that axle. Like I wonder.
I don't know. I mean, I would have imagined.
Yeah.
Right there.
I think it's about 1/4 of an inch off.
Well, that's it.
Roughly. Like, no, never mind. Be 2 1/4 off.
That sounds more like it.
I've got 133 1/4.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds more like what I'm saying.
Do you have that hooked on the part that you twist?
Well, guys, so this is part of the deal. This is part of what we do. This is why this is called mock-up stage. We have got an issue. We knew we was gonna end up with an issue because we measured in. We knew the wheelbase of this truck was supposed to be 131 inches. We messed up. What should have happened is when we pulled the front axle, we should have marked the frame center of the front axle so we could have got our wheel back in the same place. We got carried away, got excited, ripped everything out of it, and then we didn't know where our front axle was supposed to be again. So, of course, we took a lot of measurements and was able to kind of figure it out. Now, we've got this line on the floor here, and that's measured from the center of the back axle up to here, and we come up with 131 inches on that measurement, and that's what the wheelbase of this truck is supposed to be. So then we tried to take some best measurements we could and determine the center of the axle to the front of the leaf spring, and then that's where we mounted our front cross member, was based on that measurement. Well, we're off a little bit somewhere along those lines because we have determined at this point we are about 2 1/4, we'll just say 2 inches. We're about 2 inches too far forward, which is really good because we have got our cross member sticking out in front of the frame quite a bit right now, and it was going to cause quite a bit of issues with our bumper. So it's actually a really good thing that it is too far forward. So we sat the clip on here so that we could just see how it looked, because we were determining that we were about 2 inches off on our wheelbase, and sure enough we are. So it might not quite look it here, but if you really kind of pay attention, you can tell we've got quite a bit bigger gap back here than we do up front, and it just kind of looks a little funky. So we've measured the gaps, and I do know the fender's sloped a little different back here, but it looks as though we are about 2 inches heavy on the front side. So, and as you can see, Clark kind of trying to mock a bumper up there, and the cross member is causing us quite a bit of issues with the bumper. So I think probably at this point, I guess we're going to get core support and front clip back off, and we're going to undo our cross member. We're going to scoot everything back about 2 inches, and I think we're going to be back in line again. Alright, so we got the front axle scooted back 2 inches. As you can tell here, we've got a gap now from the front of our frame. We moved the cross member back, cut the tacks off of it, moved the cross member back, and we are centered up in the wheel well now, and we are getting 131 inch wheelbase measurement. Pretty close anyways. We're a little shy of 131 inch, but we also don't have our rear spring hangers in, and we're pretty confident when this leaf spring comes down to where the hanger's going to be, it's going to pull this front diff forward some. So got the front clip on it. I know I've already took the tires off on you guys, unfortunately, but it lined up really nice in the wheel well, so it looks really good. We took the wheels and tires off front and back so that we could measure center of axle to center of axle, so we could make sure that both sides were the same, and they were. So we are moving 100% in the right direction.
Alright guys, so we got these brackets for the front leaf spring hangers. These are for the rear, the front leaf springs. And they don't exactly line up, so we're going to make us some brackets for these to make them fit out of this piece of metal.
Okay, so what we ended up determining was we needed to space this mount out about 1/2 inch on each side of the frame to get the leaf springs to line up like they were supposed to. So we ended up taking some 1/2 inch plate, and we made these spacers that we've added to the hangers. And then we drilled through them. We welded them in place first and then drilled through them. And this ended up spacing us out 1/2 inch, and we were still able to utilize the bolt holes at the bottom. They still fit in the frame great. Okay, so we already got this side mounted up. And so here's what we're working with now. Got a little bit of a space between it, about 1/2 inch. Fully mounted. All the bolts in it. So now we're going to do the same for the other side.